we use all the runway that we have available to us. We hold the brakes. We go full power. We double check all the engine instruments, make sure everything is correct. And then we release the brakes.
RB 295 Kilo Quebec. 4 miles to the south, inbound for landing.
Airspeed is alive. We call that out. Rotation will be at 60, so there's 60.
295 Kilo Quebec.
We pull back and we want to be at VX,
right, clear to land.
which is
34 right,
69 miles an hour in this plane, until we cross our 50-foot obstacle, and then we lower the nose to VY, which in this M model 172 is 90 miles an hour. And you can see the change in pitch from the VX pitch to a VY pitch.
Warrior calling ground, you were cutting in and out. I copy your request for Northeast Practice Area. Second call sign. 272 Quebec, Eugene ground, stand by for squawk. And just be advised, there are 2 other aircraft that will be in the Northeast Practice Area. Runway 34 right, taxi via Golf, Kilo, Mike, Bravo.
Here we're making our right turn. It's a little bumpy today, middle of the afternoon in the summer.
Warrior 72 Quebec, Roger, I have you down to the Northwest Practice Area for now. Departure frequency 119.6, squawk 0, tree 26.
So here's our climb out, 90 miles an hour. See where...
Remember 3535 Quebec, contact Cascade departure.
35 Quebec is going to departure. Cascade departure, Skyhawk 3535 Quebec, 1,600 climbing VFR.
Skyhawk 3535 Quebec, Cascade departure, radar contact.
So as you can see, when we're climbing out at 90 miles an hour, the nose is pitched just about to the horizon. That'll give us right at 90 miles an hour. Takes quite a bit of right rudder to keep the ball in the center. And we use the trim wheel to set the trim so that we could actually be hands off on the yoke, and it will still maintain the same climb pitch.
Cessna 440, there's at least 2 if not 3 aircraft in the immediate vicinity of Corvallis. Just let me know when you'd like to switch over to advisory.
I would like to switch to a traffic advisory frequency right now, 48440.
Cessna 440, change to advisory approved. Stay on that code and give me a call back when you're done with your touch and go.
Roger that. I'll call back on this frequency, Cessna 48440.
So even small changes in pitch in an airplane will create quite a difference in airspeed and climb rate. So we pay very close attention to our pitch. No matter what we're doing, whether we're climbing, descending, turning, we pay very close attention to our pitch. So we're coming up on 3,000 feet. While I'm continuing to climb, I'm going to do some clearing turns so that we're ready for our next maneuvers. So,
Cessna 17 Delta, 1 minute, 2 jumpers away.
Cleared RNAV, runway 35, approach at Corvallis via the procedure turn.
2G Victor, cleared the runway, RNAV GPS, runway 35, did D-Ray, full procedure.
Skyhawk 2 Juliet Victor, just read back the altitude 3,700 at D-Ray.
Pardon me, 3,700 D-Ray, 2 Juliet Victor.
Thank you.
Taxi approach 17 Delta, 1 minute, jumpers away.
Skyline 17 Delta, roger. 10 aircraft, parachute jumping in effect in the immediate vicinity of Creswell Airport at or below 11,500 for the next 5 minutes.
All right, we're going to level off at 3,500 feet. That'll give us enough altitude below us to be able to do these maneuvers. We've done our clearing turns. We're now leveling off. You can see the pitch change when we level off. We let the speed build up just for a little bit, and then we bring the power back to 2,300 RPM. We trim to keep our pitch. Pretty bumpy today, so this will be a little bit of a challenge. Out here in the Willamette Valley, we line up on the section lines because that makes it easy to maintain our heading without having to look at the directional gyro all the time. Here we are at 3,500 feet. So the next maneuver we're going to do is slow flight.
Empire 7686, descend and maintain 4,000.
4,000 Empire 7686.
So different places and different instructors may have a slightly different technique, but this one works well for us in this particular 172. And we've had many students who pass this maneuver by using this technique. So the first thing we do is we pull on carb heat to reduce the power to 1,500 RPM. We don't let the nose drop. Then we put out the first 10 degrees of flaps, and we add some power up to about 1,600 RPM, still maintaining our altitude and our heading. Had to add a little bit more because of a downdraft right there. We'll put out 10 more degrees of flaps, add a little more power. 10 more degrees of flaps, that puts us at 30. We'll add a little more power up to about 2,000 RPM. And then we'll go to 40 degrees of flaps because this older Cessna has 40 degrees. So now here we are, we're flying on, and we will be, at this power setting, we'll be at about 55 to 60 miles an hour. And that's within tolerances for what the Airman Certification Standard says we should be above stall. So that is the way we set up, at least with my company, this is the way we set up for slow flight. When we want to recover, we go full power. We push the carb heat in, so we take the carb heat off. We immediately get rid of the 40 degrees of flaps down to 30.
Are you going to want to go back to Aurora at?
Maintaining altitude,
No preference.
maintaining our heading,
Victor?
and then
Victor,
we take out 10 more degrees of flaps.
6,000, Victor, thank you.
We pitch down a little bit, 10 more degrees of flaps, and then finally we take the flaps all the way out. And you notice the pitch changes as we took those flaps out. Now that we are level and we built our speed back up and the flaps are up, we're going to reduce the power back to 2,300 RPM. So that's the way we're going to be doing our slow flight. The next one that I'm going to do is a power off stall. It starts very similar to the slow flight. The carb heat comes on. We reduce the power to 1,500 RPM. We don't let the nose drop.
Cessna 959, are you going to the northwest?
Put down 10 degrees of flaps, but this time we pitch down a little bit because this is simulating a descent to land. Then we'll
959, no, that's fine. I was just wondering that. Just clarifying, no problem.
put out the next 10 degrees of flaps. Put out the next 10 degrees of flaps. We're maintaining the same descent pitch, even though we're changing our flap settings. And sometimes we use 30 degrees and sometimes 40 degrees for this. So right now we're using 30 degrees and we are pitched so that we're at about 65 miles an hour, which is a good speed for coming into land. We're all trimmed so that we can take our hands off the yoke and it will maintain the same pitch. Then, as if we were coming into flare, for landing, we pull the power to idle and we begin raising the nose. We don't need to be in a big hurry for this maneuver. Some people will pull back very, very quickly and that just creates a little more difficult stall. So we're just going to slowly bring the yoke back. There's the drop. We go full power, lower the nose a little, get rid of the carb heat. And when we get 60 and a positive rate of climb, which we're just about reached, we'll start raising the flaps 10 degrees at a time, while we maintain the same pitch. And that was our power off stall. For a power on stall, again, we start in a similar manner. Carb heat on. I teach 1500 RPM, but in this case, we're just going to start raising the nose because our goal is to bleed off airspeed until we're at about BX. About 69. Then we're going to add power, a lot of right rudder, get rid of the carb heat,
900, you're 60 knots faster.
and we continue to raise the nose, keeping the nose straight to the terrain and the ball centered with our feet while we keep the wings level with the ailerons, and we bring it up until we get a stall. There it is. We lower the nose.
Traffic observed between you and Creswell. Radar service terminated.
And step
advisory approved.
on the rudder pedal. If one of the wings is rising, we step on the rudder pedal on that side to prevent it from rising up. Okay, so there we are with a recovery from a power on stall. Bring the power back to 2300. All right, well, let's do another couple of clearing turns just to make sure we don't have, we're going to climb on up to 4,000 feet. Might be a little bit smoother up there. But it's been a little while since we did a clearing turn. We want to make sure we don't have other traffic in the area that's going to be a problem for us. Here we are, coming up on our 4,000 feet. Right, we're going to lower the nose a little bit, bring the power back to 2300, and once again we're lined up on the section lines out here in the farmlands and paralleling I-5. Makes it easy to tell when we are back onto our original heading. So now we're going to do a steep turn. And we'll do one to the left first. And the way I teach it is we bank over to about 30 degrees, and then we add power, and we start pulling back on the yoke. Oops, a little bit too much there. Get ourselves on over to 45 degrees of bank.
Warrior 2272 Quebec, Cascade departure, radar contact. Maintain VFR at or below.
So we started to rise a little bit of an updraft off the field underneath us.
Cessna 959er, maintain VFR.
There we are, we're back to our 4,000 feet, maintaining a 45-degree bank.
Northwest practice area.
You can see where the horizon is compared to the engine cowling and the panel. So we roll back out.
There's at least 1 to 2 aircraft in the pattern.
Lower the nose a little bit. Bring the power back to 2300.
On the missed approach.
That way we stay at our altitude and we roll back out on the correct heading.
Frequency on the mist. 2 to the vector.
All right, we're going to head back in to the airport. We'll do probably a couple of landings. Cascade approach, Skyhawk 3535 Quebec, ready to return for closed traffic with Papa.
Skyhawk 35 Quebec, enter a right downwind, runway 34 right.
We'll enter a right downwind for 34 right, 35 Quebec. So there are a number of ways that we can configure the airplane for a descent. So sometimes we'll put on the carb heat and bring the power back to about 1500 or 1600 RPM. But when we're 13 miles out from the airport and about 3,500 feet above it, there's no point in coming in that slowly. So we leave the carb heat off. I'm going to leave the power up at almost...
35 Quebec, contact tower 118.9er.
And we're going to tower 18.9er, 35 Quebec. Eugene Tower, Skyhawk 3535 Quebec, expecting right downwind, 34 right, close traffic.
Eugene Tower, roger, continue right downwind, runway 348.
So unless we're in really rough air, it's okay for us to come back in at a higher power setting. So I've got just below 2,500 RPM, descending 500 feet a minute, about 120 miles an hour. That'll get us back into the airport a little bit quicker. And I teach students to do this as well, partly because we come in at 2,500 RPM and 500 foot a minute descent. It takes less time to get back to the airport, and that potentially could save the student 1 or 2 tenths of hops time, so it saves them some money. I like to save my students money if it's appropriate and if it fits the lesson. So we're going to go ahead and do kind of a power descent. A little bit of turbulence out here, but not a lot, and we're well below the yellow arc. The airport directly at our 12 o'clock, so we'll be entering on about a 45 to a right downwind to runway 34 right at Eugene. Beautiful scenery out today, wonderful summer day.
Quebec, wind 03010, runway 34 right, clear for the option, right traffic.
Okay, we're cleared for the option on 34 right traffic, 35 Quebec. About every 15 minutes we need to reset our directional gyro. Looks like it is precessed a little bit, so we'll move it back on. That's a good time to do that when we've got a little bit of quiet for a moment on the way back in. We want to arrive back at the traffic pattern at 1,200 feet, traffic pattern altitude at Eugene. Certainly don't want to go below 1,200, but we don't want to arrive way high either. Got about 1,000 feet to go. Reducing the power a little bit as we're need to get down just a little quicker and cover the ground a little slower so that we arrive back at pattern altitude at 1,200 feet. I've increased the descent rate a little bit, and you probably see that I'm pitched down a little more than I was before. We have 300 feet to go to pattern altitude. This is going to work out just right. All right, 1,200 feet. And I teach in this airplane that We use 2,100 RPM in the pattern, which means compared to the pitch that we would do at, if we were at 2,300 RPM, we're going to be pitched up a little higher. So you'll notice that the horizon panel is a little closer to the horizon, and we trim for that. As we get in the downwind, we put on the carb heat. About a half a mile out from runway, right at 1,200 feet. When we get a beam, by that we mean even with the end of the runway, and we're going to reduce the power to 1,500 RPM, but we're not going to let the nose drop. It naturally wants to, but we don't let it. We're in the white arc on the airspeed indicator, so we're going to put down 10 degrees of flaps. We're going to pitch down just a little bit, begin our descent. Right, we're about a 45-degree angle from the end of the runway, so we're going to go ahead and our turn to base. And when we get on base, a little bit of a crab into the wind that's now from our right, we're going to put down another 10 flaps. We'll retrim. And we're quite high, so we're actually going to go to idle here for just a moment. Lose a little bit of this excess altitude. We'll go to 30 degrees of. So what we don't do when we're high like this is we don't pitch down to go down. We still want to maintain the same pitch. And we use power as a kind of an elevator control to control our descent. So we still got 4 white lights. We want 2 whites and 2 reds. So we're just going to maintain this until the light on the right turns red, and then we're going to begin adding power. There's red. Now the second one will turn red. Now we're at 1,500 RPM.
Papa, Mike, Bravo.
This is the appropriate pitch. We want 65 to 70 miles an hour until we get down about 1 wing's length above the runway, and then we're going to put the power to idle, and then we're going to begin raising the nose until we touch down. And this is a full stop. We can exit at Bravo 3, 35 Quebec.